Hello and welcome to the Friday, December 5th, 2025 edition of the SANS Internet Storm Center's Stormcast. My name is Johannes Ulrich, recording today from Dallas, Texas. And this episode is brought to you by the SANS.edu Graduate Certificate Program in Cloud Security. In diaries today, we do have one of our undergraduate interns again, Jackie Nobien, talking about one of the attack observations that she retrieved from her honeypot. In this particular case, we have an SSH scan, so the initial entry vector here was a weak username and password. What made this a little bit interesting is that the request appeared to come from an Indonesian government system. Then, of course, the question is always, can you somehow imply intent if such an address is used? Well, Jackie here looked closer at the particular sample. It was fairly standard, sort of a standard SSH worm that we have so many of it. So her conclusion here was that this was not actually any kind of government organized or attributable event, but instead likely just another compromised system that just happened to be inside this particular government's network. Of course, packets themselves usually don't speak to intent. We would have to observe more what the particular attack was actually done after. But in this case, it didn't really look like it was anything special. In the past, some government actors, for example, have used similar techniques to attack home routers and the like in order to then build more sophisticated attack networks. Well, that's just a quick update on the React vulnerability. There are now working proof of concept exploits out there that have been verified that can easily be adjusted in order to launch arbitrary code on vulnerable systems. So at this point, if you find a vulnerable system, assume compromise. We don't see widespread exploitation yet in our honeypots. However, it's not that hard to sort of first scan for vulnerable systems or possibly vulnerable systems, and then just hit those specific systems. So again, assume compromise. For any guidance on how to figure out if your particular system is vulnerable or not, the first stop should be the React blog post. There are a number of people that have published scanning scripts, either host-based or network-based. As usual, be careful what software you're downloading, what you're running, and do download these scripts only from what you consider a reputable source. Also, various standard vulnerability scanners have included modules to look for this particular vulnerability. And in the past, I've spoken quite frequently about vulnerabilities in VPN gateways. Well, we have yet another one, but here for a change, it's not sort of one of these big name brands we have been talking about so often. The Japanese cert in this particular case is warning about ongoing active exploitation of a recently patched vulnerability in the Array Networks Array AG series VPN gateway. I'm personally not familiar with this particular gateway, and the main reason I cover it here is that it's not just the big name brands that you always see in the news that have these vulnerabilities. It's the smaller players as well. In this particular case, it appears to be some kind of PHP vulnerability, and as so often, the attacker uses that then to upload a web shell to the gateway. So definitely make sure that you're patched, and if your VPN gateway wasn't in the news recently, still a good idea to double check that you are up to date. Well, and that's it for today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, and thanks for liking this podcast. And as always, special thanks if you're leaving a good comment in your favorite podcast platform, and talk to you again on Monday. Bye.